by becoming rich.
Take all your money, buy Bitcoin.
I say when we sell.
Wake up every morning and say GM.
GM. GM. Today is Thursday. Daily levels. Let's look at a couple of things I was talking about yesterday in trading analysis about Bitcoin and some of the open interest build up across BTC and across alts as well. So for Bitcoin, everything actually looks fine in terms of OI. Bitcoin's open interest is pretty much just tracking price to a large extent. It has moved to new highs in a notional value terms, but when you look at it, stablecoin and coin margined, again, a slight increase of open interest totally over the most recent high, but again, I dug down into that, explaining that's not bearish. It doesn't have to be bearish or bullish. It depends on direction. So it very much depends on where price goes next. And as I zoomed it in and showed you, we have very clear positioning building up from this level, which was off the weekly open, and of course from Powell's speech, which was here at 6 p.m. UTC, and you're looking at sort of that 3-hour, 4-hour area in and around that, where we had the move up and the chop and the move down and the chop, and then boom, direction up. So that's an untested area down around 60. This 62.5 is getting defended super aggressively, even again overnight there off the open. And I mean, for good reason. There is 10,000 contracts that are built up there, which is what, 600 million or so of positioning. That is generally not a great sign. So, I mean, why would someone or some group open up 10,000 contracts of BTC right off the weekly open? You know, literally exactly on the weekly open, right? There you have Monday's open, and then boom, in the first 3-4 hours, you get this massive increase of positioning. So it's unlikely that that's some kind of high time frame bullish signal. It's more likely position building in order to either keep the market up so they can distribute, so prop the market up so they can sell more spot. Potentially it's someone shorting super heavily, but the market went up when it happened, so I would doubt that. I would think it's more keeping the market propped up until maybe it's a thing before options expiry. They want to defend the market and not allow it go below 62.5 or above 65 before the OPEX. Could well just be that. Market makers have a vested interest in keeping Bitcoin's price between a certain level so that options positions expire out of the money. That's how you get this pinning effect the closer you get to Friday, which is just tomorrow. And I said this all week. I said it when? Sunday. I said it on Weekly Outlook. Said it every day since. I don't expect Bitcoin to get above 65k before Friday. If we hit 65k, I think it will reject off it. Now we've seen pretty much that. We didn't hit 65, but you can see obviously 65 is acting as resistance because that's the biggest options level. If you look over here, these are the biggest options, the quarterly options. So you get the quarterly options expiry, which is tomorrow, and there we have that 65k level. So below that you've got 63, which is quite a high level of interest as well as the 62, and so you can see why we are sort of pinning there. Right, we're staying above 63, we're staying below 65. There will be a big move, I imagine, after the options expiry tomorrow. Whether that comes Friday or comes Monday, I'm unsure. Probably comes Friday. And so today I don't expect much. Tomorrow I expect a lot. There is probably going to be a very big move. And you also want to take a look at altcoins. So global open interest, and compare it to, you really have to compare global open interest to total 3 to get the best picture of it and see where it's at. You can also compare it to Bitcoin itself though. So obviously we had this period here where global open interest, I should take off BTC and ETH. So just looking at altcoins. There you go. Global OI for alts has been going significantly higher, and even now is still at the highs, even as Bitcoin has sold off and Bitcoin went sideways and flat. That is about, from the lows of there to up to here, it's about 15%. It's almost 2 billion. It's not insignificant. And if you compare that with total 3 and you go and look on a lower time frame, it is tracking with total 3's actual chart. See that? All the way up, down, up. So total 3 is outperforming BTC at the moment. As you can see, Bitcoin is in a lower high state. Total 3 is about to make new highs. When you go back to the total 3 chart itself, it is zoomed out. You can see the same kind of thing where the open interest is built up well above, not just above. So in price terms, total 3 is just double topping with the August highs there, but on open interest it's 20% above that, and it's back at the July highs, which is all the way up here. July highs are there. So again, that doesn't have to mean bearish. It usually does, though. We'll just be honest. It usually is bearish. It's usually bearish for Bitcoin to stop going up for any reason, and for the open interest on altcoins to go up and outpace the price, the total index. So yeah, the expectation there is total 3, which is the combination of all the alts. Total 3 is moving into resistance and is below levels it was at previously, and yet there is more activity. There are more people positioning. That's more longs and shorts, but of course, when you feel like the bull market's back and you finally get some bullish momentum in the market like we've seen, do you think that dumb money retail are rushing in to short an extra 2 billion of altcoins? No. So it's almost certainly like retail, directional, smaller players who are getting long, and the other side of that trade is the market maker who's taking on those shorts. And that usually ends badly for the over-leveraged cohort of participants in the alts. So very clear about that, the over-leveraged ones. So when did we actually break those highs? The point at which it started to dislocate was the 19th. The 19th is where? Here. All right, so basically since the following day, since the 20th, because the 19th is kind of where it started, and then since the 20th, the open interest for the total on total 3 has been higher than it was back in August. So you've really had about a week now of altcoins rising in between them. Let's say from the open on the 20th, excuse me, to current price. Total 3 is up 5.27% from the open on the 20th, and the open interest is up 14.5%. So it's about 3 times. It's outpacing the rough measure of price by about 3x. Short answer is there are a lot of positions building here, and obviously you don't trade total 3. It's not a tradable chart. I say this all the time. It's an index. But to me, it's quite clear that you're looking at something down here, and all of this positioning here, this building, if it's incorrect, is going to get flushed. Right? That was where it basically started from Friday the 20th. It's moving up towards the highs, and any move down into that area is going to wreck individual alt names. Now, I don't know, because like I said, it's not impossible for this to be bullish. It's not impossible that position building is going to go in the favor of bulls, because it's just time and we've priced in all the downside and people are too fearful. That's all well and good, and we've had our kind of low and a retest, head and shoulders, and it's all holding up well, and it's starting to rise, and we're up into resistance. Like, I'm not really that bearish. My exact view here is the bottom's in, we are bullish, but this rally seems to be attracting too much short-term positioning. So there's some kind of little wipe that needs to happen at some point. Again, it could be from higher. Don't forget, we could go a lot higher before it happens. You can't predict these things with a crystal ball. I'll give you a good example of that too. Over here, back in May, the total 3 open interest was just absolutely going parabolic compared to price. Price wasn't moving. Price was literally here, right? Price was just chopping around like that. So let me put these side by side. Might be easier to view it like this. So when you saw Bitcoin and the market crash off the highs in April, that's like here, you then saw sideways, and you saw this tiny, barely a breakout in May. And yet, what happened with OI? Mooning and continued and continued and continued. So, at this point over here, like on the 21st of May, you knew something was up because open interest had risen 22% above those highs on the, what did I say it was? The 21st of May. And by the 21st of May here, price across the alts had literally only gone above the highs by 3%. So at that point, you're like, this is fucking over. This is insane. This is way too over leveraged. Long's getting too horny, scientific term. And yet, open interest kept going and kept going and kept going. Price dipped back first, went for the second touch, and then we sold off. Now, you're clear. Back then, your super clear warning sign was this, right? It was this sweep, falls back inside, rejects, drops down. So clearly showing weakness, clearly showing a false breakout type of structure. And then the second test was the one that got it. So, but that was in the midst of a bearish market. That was it after a parabolic rally that needed to unwind. So there's a big difference between people longing the complacency bounce, like they did there, versus where we're at now, which is sort of a few months on from there. And certainly this could be a bottom. It's came back down into this kind of zone down here. It has tested it once, twice, and 3 times and held. To me, that makes the strongest level just above there, if you're looking at where you'd expect no lower for price to go. So there's absolutely a chance for price to come back into this area here and kind of round out that bottom before rallying. I don't think we need to just go like that. In fact, there's no fucking way we will. In my opinion, there's no way we will just go like that. You will not just go from this sharp decline into just a straight up move. Very, very, very unlikely. So this rally will end. This rally will have a pullback. Question is it from here? Do we have to see a continuation of open interest diverging against price? Do we, altcoins have to have some kind of big pumps or whatever? The best way to view it is you don't need to guess that. You can just wait. Much like you did over here. The spike, you waited. The retest is where it tells you. And there will be something like that. Whether it's a carbon copy, double top and down, probably not, because markets don't repeat like that. Or more likely, I think, it just fails to go higher, comes back down, there's some kind of lower high, and then it just drifts back down. And it's as simple as that. It's just people got long too soon, comes back down, one more touch, and away we go. I don't know, though. I would just be hesitant on alts because of this. But today I'll do altcoin request stream where we'll actually dive down deeper into it. So that'll be a good one. And as for Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin is going to be the determinant of this. We're at that important level of 65, which is important on many, many time frames and many ways. Let me change this back. So you've got the total from the top to where we are now. We're right around that point of control. If you look on IBIT, which is the ETFs, we're still sort of up at that resistance, and for the entirety of ETF existence, we're right around the POC. And we go back to Bitcoin here. And then if you have your original, the other way of measuring, which I do, is from top to bottom, assuming this is the bottom. We're back inside the value area low. So that's my absolute no-go, cannot go below area. Not no-go, it can go there. But, as you'll set the alert, lose this. Lose, I just fucking don't want to put it in caps. I'm screaming at myself. Lose this level. That's where we go to like 57 to 58. Because the next strongest area that I would see would be back into this block of demand down here. And that's the only real untested area or kind of place that gaps are left, or if anyone's chasing the Fed. And it's also where I talked about those positions started building during FOMC and after it. If it round tripped all the way back to there, you would want to see it not go much lower than that and then continue to hold. So anyway, that doesn't matter till 61.6 breaks. We're right around that old POC, which is clearly acting as resistance on the low time frames right now. So that's a level that would have to flip. For me, that's a great intraday level to look at. You can see that since we've come up here across how many different times? Zoom this in. You can see that across, didn't close above there. We got 1, 2 closes above, but then of course lost it quite aggressively. No close, no close, no close. 1 close above, back below. So this, it's pretty much exactly 64 as well. So 64 is clearly a level where BTC is on the lower time frames pivoting around. And that's something worth watching. We have had a slight structure break as well. If you go to a daily, you can sort of see it. Where we had this, as it moved up, we had this kind of red candle that led to a new high, and then a new high on the close basis, and even a sweep. And then this yesterday's daily actually closed below Monday's. So again, it's all part of a consolidation. I wouldn't be reading too much into it, but it definitely is showing some signs of momentum weakness here. If the market moves up, if we moved up into the highs like that, you'd much rather see it do this, where it's not trying to go higher. It's, you know, compressing and compressing and compressing, or just pulling back and back and back. Instead, it's going up into the highs and it's trying to go higher and higher and higher. So it's done that once, twice, 3 times. So be mindful of that. That is what can create these divergences to lead to price rolling over. And I would say if 64k doesn't get reclaimed, these lows won't hold forever. Obviously, it's good that they are. It clearly shows there's someone supporting or defending that level, but to what end? This is the question that you don't know the answer to, which is why are they defending it? Is it, again, just so they can dump more spot up here? Is it so the positions are built? Is it because there's a liquidation price below? Is it because whatever, right? Nobody really knows. All we do know is clearly someone has a vested interest in Bitcoin not going below 62.5. So if it does, and it can't hold 61.6, then I think we go back to that 60k FOMC level. And from there, if we go any lower, you're looking at that point, you're looking at this being a full mean reversion, which, you know, if it goes down like this and can't reclaim there, and it goes into here, then you're looking at most likely another move down to about there. And that's probably where a higher low could form, where this overall structure could still be a higher low, a bit like we had last summer. And that's the way you want to view it for me. And then, of course, use that to inform your altcoin positions. If Bitcoin breaks, fuck me, that's the worst ever. If Bitcoin breaks 65, I think we're off to the races. Whichever way this breaks next is going to be important. If it breaks down towards that 61.6 and reclaims, then that's fine. You can forget about all this downtrend. It's just a trap. But if it starts to lose 61.6, then you're looking at the move up has completed. There's probably going to be some kind of move down. Does it fully mean revert, or does the move up lead to a higher low, which then we go higher from, which is what I would expect. And it would just go hunting people's positions, maybe down even below 58, where people think it shouldn't be able to go, but there's plenty of liquidity there, right? And, you know, that'd be like, if you're looking at just like a pullback of the entire move, you get your bottom to top, that'd be like a 61 or a 75 pullback, which similar to like, not that the market ever repeats, and it won't, but similar to some of these moves you see last year, where we had these rallies up. You had the rally up and then it pulled back, but it didn't pull back fully. And then you had this rally up and it pulled back, but it didn't pull back to new lows, right? You're getting your 61% or 75% pullbacks on these moves. And what's actually happening is higher highs and higher lows. Whereas before that, Any pumps we had were fully retracing. Pumps we had were fully retracing to new lows. We had a pump here and it fully retraced all the way to new lows to sweep the lows. So and of course here, pump, new lows, new lows, new lows, new lows. So that was a change of character in the market at that time. Currently, we're in the exact same thing where every pump is going to new lows and every pump is going to new lows. And then this pump didn't go to new lows. It pulled back about 75%. So there's, again, a potential sign of some kind of changing nature. And I think for me, the absolute level is 61.6. So that's the one to watch. And that's it, GM. I'll see you later on the live stream, altcoin requests, 4 p.m. UTC, GM.